When John Lennon was 22 years old, he wrote and sang the lyrics, "There's a place where I can go when I feel low, when I feel blue, and it's my mind," showing the first signs that he was exploring the philosophical concept of mind over matter. 3 years later, at the age of 25, then experimenting with LSD and reading the works of a variety of thinkers whose books lined the shelves of London's Indica Gallery, he expanded on that concept and dove deeper into its meaning in a psychedelic work he titled Rain. When asked about what the song meant, he somewhat flippantly answered, "This is a song I wrote about people who are always moaning about the weather all the time," before expanding, "You know, whatever it is, it's okay. It's meant to be." While it's true that Rain is thematically centered around the weather, it isn't about it in a literal sense. A look into the lyrics show that the weather, both rain and sunshine, are being used in a metaphorical sense to express a much deeper message. That message being, no matter what the circumstance is we face, it is our perception that ultimately decides how we feel, negative or positive, optimistic or pessimistic, happy or unhappy. In other words, nothing in the physical world is intrinsically good or bad. That ruling is made by how we choose to perceive it internally. Ultimately, John plays the role of the wise teacher here, to show that happiness and satisfaction can be achieved no matter what the situation. He begins by using two opposite types of weather, rain and sunshine, to illustrate the mind of the pessimist, who will always perceive the conditions around themselves in a negative light and use them to retreat from living their lives to the fullest, no matter what those conditions are. When the rain comes, John sings, they run and hide their heads. They might as well be dead when the rain comes. But then, when the sun shines, they slip into the shade and sip their lemonade when the sun shines. As we see, the characters in John's allegory hide from the sun and the rain. There's no pleasing them. But as the proverb goes, one man's meat is another man's poison. John takes the opposite viewpoint in the song's simple chorus. Rain, I don't mind. Shine, the weather's fine. Using as little words as possible, the message is clear. If you're miserable, it is your own doing. Happiness is only a perception shift away. In other words, mind over matter. John continues in the next verse by offering to teach his characters, or his listeners, or both, that a change in condition to the outer world is only a change to your inner world if you allow it to be. I can show you, he begins, that when it starts to rain, everything's the same. I can show you. And he shows us this by repeating his refrain. Rain, I don't mind. Shine, the weather's fine. In other words, it's all the same to him. It's all okay, so long as I choose to perceive it as so. Mind over matter. And in conclusion, John then finishes by inquiring if his lesson has been understood. Can you hear me? He asks. That when it rains and shines, it's just a state of mind. Can you hear me? The song is short, metaphoric, and seemingly simple. Yet it packs a lot of wisdom into its stanzas, boiling down to the simple proposition that the world is what you make of it. It's all a matter of perception. Many have written about the song Rain over the years, showing the strong, thought-provoking impact this B-side has had in music history. Author Nicholas Schaffner wrote in his 1979 Beatles biography that the hypnotic rain was the first articulations of a philosophy John and George were to expound repeatedly in their work over the next few years, that the outward manifestations of the material world are all nothing more than a wall of illusion. Ian MacDonald, author of Revolution in the Head, concluded that the songs Rain and Sun are physical phenomena experienced in a condition of heightened consciousness, the record portraying a state of mind in which one is peacefully at home in an integrated universe. While psychedelic author Rob Chapman reduces rain to an acid convert's joy at seeing rain for the first time and marveling at its essence. Well, while definitely musically and arguably lyrically Rain is clearly influenced by LSD, Chapman's take of the whole song merely being about John's awe at the weather while high on acid seems to miss the mark by miles. Ultimately, like 99% of the Beatles' work, Rain is a song of positivity, aimed at helping the listener achieve a solid level of peace, love, and happiness. It's no surprise that a person like John Lennon, who was abandoned by both his mother and father before the tender age of 5, only to reunite with the former as a teen just before she was killed by a motorist down the road from his house, it's no wonder his thoughts seem to be preoccupied most of the time with figuring out ways to find love and happiness. Imagine, The Word, There's a Place, Give Peace a Chance, Love, In My Life, Across the Universe, Strawberry Fields Forever, All You Need Is Love. The list goes on and on and on and on, including, of course, Rain. These are all perfect examples of that thought process and sentiment. Happiness is yours, if you want it. Now, as a bonus, here are 5 additional facts about the Beatles' Rain. 1. After analyzing Motown songs of the time, the Beatles came to the realization that what made them sound so good was the booming presence of the bass guitar, and so they marched into EMI studios and demanded that from then on, Paul's bass be recorded and mixed thicker and more up front. The first song they recorded with this new style of production was Rain, which, compared to all Beatles songs before it, has a dominating bass presence. Forever after that, Paul's legendary bass lines became the signature Beatles sound. 2. Rain was the first of several Beatles songs to feature a tape played backwards on it. The first verse is played during the outro of the song in reverse, a technique John stumbled upon while high at home when he accidentally put a tape on his reel the wrong way, and was stunned by the sound he heard coming out of the speakers when he pressed play. It took producer George Martin much debate to convince John that an entire song recorded and then released in reverse would be a terrible idea. But the Beatles would use the technique a number of times in songs such as Tomorrow Never Knows, I'm Only Sleeping, and even Free as a Bird. 3. Though written and intended to be in the tempo it was released in, Rain's backing rhythm tracks were recorded at a much faster speed, and the tapes were slowed down in post-production to give the song the unique, psychedelic sound that it has. 4. 3 different promotional videos were filmed for Rain, the first in the lush green gardens of Chiswick House in West London, the other 2 on sound stages in EMI Studios, better known now as Abbey Road Studios. They're considered to be the very first examples of what would become commonly known as music videos. In them, Paul sports a very noticeable chipped tooth, the lingering result of a moped accident months earlier. 5. In 1984, Ringo told Rolling Stone that out of all the records he'd ever recorded in his entire career, Rain was the best he felt he ever played. Do you agree? Let us know what you think of Rain, the music and the lyrics in the comments section below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see many more just like it in the future. Until next time, my friends, peace and love.